I am now seeing 28 years later The Bone Temple on theaters after released at last 1 week to kick off January. I know 28 years later is considered the most divided horror sequel of last year. Even I actually enjoy it but not a big fan of it too much. When it comes out my reaction on this new entry and I was surprising to love it. Definitely it is actually a better than third movie directed by Danny Boyle, and I'll say this is what The Last of Us Part 2 should have been, not about the revenge. This plot is all about the disturbing behind human nature, like the example of Jimmy and his cult. They about to involve their atrocious crime to kill innocent survivors after he meets Spike at the end of years later, and then Spike realizes Jimmy is becoming his worst nightmare than any infecteds, while Dr. Kelson tried to find out how it can changes the world due to his studying science, which was creating the cure of infecteds. My most strongest positive is that the direction and pacing were being more improved than two installments. I like the way to fix the problems from both previous ones, although years later had better characters but with same problems from weeks later. I was being divided over director Nia DaCosta involves in direct this movie when I heard the news for this sequel, and then I was being overreact why they choose her to direct, but I am glad she went into redemption by improve her directing in this movie after her mediocre Marvel movie called The Marvels. I don't blame her as person for criticizing Marvel Studios for their failure at the aspects of The Marvels. I believe Nia deserved better film, and this new story of 28 Days Later saga is got right, probably better than Spike's mother illness story after first act of years later. Dr. Kelson and Alpha Samson did really good at stealing the show. They have good moments and no bad dialogues. Samson is also the best part, and I like the concept of how he can go back to being human by the cure of Dr. Kelson, but I have a negative was Kelson went being weird to relationship with Samson. Spike is still good character, but he tried to escape Jimmy and do nothing with his cult. Jimmy is one of the cruel villain in this movie. He's justifying his evil side for killing innocent lives and corrupt the survival. Yet it tried to make me sympathy for him due to his tragic backstory at the beginning of years later. He suffered from trauma to become insane satanic cult leader. Probably I believe he's surprising a great villain in 28 Days Later universe. Funny how Jack O'Connell got to play two villains such as Remick from Sinners and now this. I know him from 2014 biopic movie Unbroken. I believe he's considered best modern actor in Hollywood after Sinners. This film had a great gore effects but doesn't feel violent film as a fiction like Alpha Samson ripping the guy head off. Jimmy's cult went sadistic to torture innocent survivors who live in their safe house, and Samson went brutal to fighting infecteds in the abandoned train, but it doesn't count as a violent movie. And the final act was very creativity where Dr. Kelson is facing off Jimmy at the night of his bone temple, and he knows Jimmy is a pure evil killer for the survival of post-apocalyptic infected. This scene is so much fun to watch it, and I am quite to enjoy the final act. However, my review would feature the spoiler for this movie if you haven't watched it yet. Here's what the ending that surprising me is the character appear at the end, which was Jim, played by Cillian Murphy, and his appearance in 28 Days Later. I am never expect this legacy character came back, and I'm glad he's still alive where he lives in same location of 28 Days Later with his daughter named Sam. However, they found two survivors such as Spike and Kelly, but both being chased by infecteds. So now Jimmy is going to save them, but too quick to end this movie. This is a surprising best way to set up another entry, and this is way superior to the ending in the first of new trilogy. Someday I would watch 28 Days Later, which I finally got Blu-ray copy. Overall, this is definitely best story in 28 Days Later saga and definitely way superior to both previous movies, and it's actually best way to kick off January. So what I gonna rate this movie is 9 out of 10. So that's my review of 28 Years Later The Bone Temple. Be sure to click my video a like. What's your thoughts on this movie if you still love the first movie more? Hopefully wish have a great day and see you on later.